Chapter 1: The Horror on the Thames. On Friday, September 21st, 2001, as Aidan Minter was crossing Tower Bridge on his way home from work, he noticed something unusual in the River Thames. Initially, he thought it was a rusty metal barrel, but upon closer inspection, he was horrified to realize it was a body part floating on the water. Following this shocking discovery, the Metropolitan Police launched their investigation under the codename Operation Swallcliffe. The autopsy revealed that the body part belonged to a black boy approximately 5 to 7 years old, wearing only orange shorts. The victim's head, hands, and feet had been carefully removed, which forensic experts believed was done post-mortem. The cause of death was likely blood loss, as there were no other injuries apart from a cut on the victim's neck. With the help of oceanographers, police concluded that the body was likely dropped in a location between Chiswick in West London and the Thames Barrier in East London, resulting in a search area spanning 450 square kilometers. Due to the vast area and lack of surveillance cameras, the investigation faced significant challenges. Since all identifiable body parts had been lost, the police named the body Adam. Initially, investigators reviewed missing persons reports, but found no matches for the DNA. No further clues were discovered, so attention turned to the only evidence they had: the orange shorts the boy was wearing. The shorts were traced back to a company named Kids & Company, sold in Woolworth stores across Germany. Investigators then began searching for information about Adam outside of England. Chapter 2: The Mysterious Remedy. With the most unusual detail of the case being the missing body parts, the Metropolitan Police began considering the possibility that Adam's death was the result of some ritual. They sought assistance from the South African Police's Psychological Investigation Unit, which deals with severe crimes like serial killings or cases with unusual and strange details. This unit provided information about moody, a term used in South Africa related to medicine. According to this agency, moody often refers to herbal medicines used to treat common ailments like headaches or stomach aches. For more complex conditions, some people believe that animal parts are needed for the remedy to work. Hence, crocodiles or monkeys are often used in moody. However, the concept of moody had been distorted by extremists who believed that human body parts were necessary for healing or granting magical powers. Believers in this idea hold that humans are born with a certain amount of luck throughout their lives, and young children have not yet used up their luck. This is why children are often the victims in such ritualistic murders. However, after a thorough analysis of Adam's case, the South African investigators concluded that the case might not be related to moody, as despite the removal of limbs, the boy's internal organs were intact, which are crucial for creating this type of remedy. The Metropolitan Police continued to believe in the connection to moody rituals, even though South African experts disagreed. Time passed without any breakthroughs, and the police sought further consultation from Richard Hoskins, a crime expert specializing in murders linked to African rituals. According to Hoskins' book, The Boy in the River, the precise cuts on the victim's body indicated they were made after the boy was killed, and the intact organs contradicted the ritualistic aspect. Hoskins concluded that Adam's case was likely the result of a human sacrifice ritual. The cut on the victim's neck led Hoskins to believe that the killers intended to collect the boy's blood for a ritual. Based on evidence, Hoskins speculated that the victim might have been from the Yoruban tribe in Nigeria. According to Yoruban beliefs, they worship a supreme god named Olodumare and the Orisha, who are messengers that guide humanity. While human sacrifice is not encouraged, a few followers believe it is necessary. This connection, along with the fact that the cult revered the color orange and the majority of its members were Yoruban, created a vague link to Adam. Nevertheless, this connection remains speculative, and there was no solid evidence linking Adam's death to the strange cult. Chapter 3: Joyce Osajid. After nearly 6 months with no progress, New information finally emerged in July 2002. Forensic expert Kenneth Pye, after analyzing Adam's bones using isotope analysis, indicated that the victim was not born in the UK or anywhere else in Europe. Shifting the analysis to Africa, Pye narrowed down the location to the highlands of Nigeria where the Yoruban people live. They also examined the carbon levels in Adam's bones, showing that he had been in England for about 6 months before his death. By rare fortune, the police eventually received a complete lead. Social activists in Scotland contacted the case inspector about a black woman who said she could not take her children away because they were needed for a ritual. This woman's name was Joyce Osajid. Very little information was found about Joyce, and although immigration papers listed her as coming from Sierra Leone, the police believed she was from Nigeria. Joyce was questioned twice in July at her home in Scotland, and during one search of her apartment, Officer Joe Veal found a letter with an address in London. Investigators visited this address and met a woman who said Joyce had appeared at her door asking to see a priest, stating she had come from Germany. Noting that this was also where Adam's shorts were sold, the Metropolitan Police decided to raid Joyce's home again. In the dirty laundry, they found several items still tagged from Kids and Company, matching the shorts found on Adam. Joyce was arrested shortly after. During interrogation, Joyce claimed she had lived with an abusive husband in Germany until she fled to London in mid-2001 with her 2 young daughters due to safety concerns. This was partly because she believed her husband was involved in the death of her firstborn child in 1995. Pressed further, she admitted her husband was a leader of a cult named the Black Eyes of the Demon Guru Maharaja, an extremist cult allegedly involved in human sacrifice. The police tried to gather more details from Joyce, but she was unwilling to provide additional information. Initially, Joyce had mentioned her husband's name as Anajayavi, but wrote down a completely different name, Tony Onus, when asked to write it. Strangely, she then consistently denied mentioning Anajayavi, and changed her story to say she came to England from Lagos by ship without ever having been to Germany. According to the police, Joyce seemed perpetually fearful and denied having cared for any boy during her time in Germany or London. DNA evidence proved she had no blood relation to Adam, and with no other evidence, she was released. The police then intensively searched for Joyce's mysterious husband, but had few leads. Nevertheless, the interrogation provided a significant clue. The cult, the Black Eyes of the Demon Guru Maharaja, founded by Muhammad Saib, a Ghanaian who moved to Nigeria in 1980 to preach. Although most Nigerians ignored Saib, some Yoruban people followed him, with around 30 establishments in Nigeria and rumors of torture and murder associated with the cult. The cult's sacred color, orange, and its members' Yoruban origins created a vague connection to Adam, however. All this remains speculative, with no concrete evidence linking Adam's death to the strange cult. Chapter 4. Samuel Anajayavi. After a period without new developments, the police decided to conduct another search of Joyce's 2 London apartments, one in East End and the other in South London. At the East End address, they found that the name on the lease was Kingsley Oho, but he had disappeared, and there was nothing else of importance at that address. At the South London apartment, the police found a video titled, "The Wedding of Joyce Erahaber and Samuel Anajayavi," recorded in February 1997. Investigators immediately recognized the name, Anajayavi, mentioned by Joyce, and wondered if this was the abusive husband mentioned. Since there was no information about this name in British police records, they searched for the man in the EU's executive database. The police discovered that Anajayavi was a fugitive in Germany, where he lived under the alias Ibrahim Kadade, wanted for various crimes including document fraud and human trafficking. According to German authorities, Joyce had also lived in Hamburg under the name Bintu Kadade, sharing a surname with the wanted man. Based on this new information, the Metropolitan Police began investigating Samuel Anajayavi. Joyce had described Samuel as a suspicious person who practiced human sacrifice rituals for the orange-worshipping cult. Given that Samuel had lived in Germany, where Adam's shorts and the only evidence from the case were sold, it seemed the police were getting closer to solving the mystery of what happened to Adam. However, as the investigation made significant progress, the UK Home Office suddenly decided to deport Joyce Osajid for using a false passport to enter the country illegally. Since the police had no evidence to hold Joyce, they had to witness the only witness to the case being deported back to Nigeria. Now, all they could do was continue searching for Kingsley Oho, whose name was on the lease at Joyce's East End address. In December 2002, the police finally traced Oho to an apartment on Brett Road. Although Oho had disappeared before the police arrived, they found crucial evidence there: 2 small plastic bags containing unidentified substances. These substances were later found to be very similar to what was found in Adam's intestines. At the same time, analysis of samples collected in Nigeria revealed that Adam had spent most of his life in the outskirts of Benin City, where Joyce Osajid, Samuel Anajayavi, and Kingsley Oho had lived. It seemed that things were beginning to come to light. Chapter 5: Breakthroughs in the Investigation. In 2003, the year began with valuable information for investigators. After coordinating with the UK Human Trafficking Oversight Agency, the police finally pinpointed and closely monitored Kingsley Ojo's activities. Samuel Anajayavi was also found to be living in Ireland under an alias. Once the whereabouts of these 2 suspects were confirmed, the Metropolitan Police wanted to question Joyce Osajid again. In February 2003, the British High Commission in Lagos found her. According to Joyce's statement, she had been a member of the Guru Maharaja cult since 1994, but left the cult the previous year, in 2002, because she was frightened by the cult's cruel actions, though she didn't provide details about these actions. When asked about Adam, Joyce mentioned that the new details significantly improved the investigation. The police decided to focus their attention on Samuel Anajayavi. In June 2003, a coordinated raid by British and Irish police was conducted at Samuel's house in Dublin. After his arrest, Samuel denied knowing Kingsley Oho or Joyce Osajid, despite having their names in his address book. With no additional leads from Samuel, British police began extradition procedures to send the wanted criminal to Germany. The case seemed to hit a dead end again until Kingsley Oho was eventually captured by Italian police at a brothel in Italy. Thanks to documents obtained at the brothel about the human trafficking network Oho was involved in, investigators began to hope they could prove Oho was the one who brought Adam to London nearly 3 years earlier. Pieces of the puzzle seemed to fit together, and Kingsley Ojo's trial was about to begin. Chapter 6: The Identity of Adam. On July 10, 2004, Kingsley Ojo's first trial was held. The trial ended with Ojo pleading guilty to human trafficking and being sentenced to 4.5 years in prison in the UK, with deportation to Nigeria upon release. This was a victory in the case as the mastermind behind the trafficking ring was held accountable, but the murder of Adam remained unsolved. There was no connection between Ojo and the victim, apart from the vague detail that Ojo was the person named on the lease for Joyce Osajid's house. With no reason to bring the woman to the UK as a witness, the trial concluded with the question of Adam's death still unanswered. In 2007, the police decided to release Ojo a year early to seek his cooperation in secret. However, after returning to Africa, all traces of him disappeared. As time passed, there were no new developments to help the police continue the investigation. It wasn't until 2011 that Nigerian-born journalist Ronk Phillips found Joyce Osajid. By then, a brain illness had severely weakened her health. In an interview with Phillips, Joyce admitted she had brought Adam from Germany to the UK after the boy had stayed with her for a while. She said the boy's name was Ikpamwosa, and that a man named Bawa had asked her to give him the boy. A few weeks later, Joyce was informed that the boy had died. Joyce then presented a photograph of the dark-skinned boy wearing a blue jacket. When asked if the boy in the photo was Adam, Joyce nodded. This interview sparked media interest in the case, with claims that the mystery of Adam's identity had been solved. The Metropolitan Police were also interested, but they didn't trust Joyce's statements as her memory had deteriorated significantly. Despite this, over a year later, Nick Chalmers, the chief inspector who had worked on the Adam case, participated in another interview with the BBC. This time, Joyce said Adam's real name was Patrick Haber, and that the boy in the photograph was not Adam. According to Joyce, the name Ikpamwosa and the photograph being of Adam was a misunderstanding. The photo actually depicted a boy named Danny, the son of an old friend of Joyce's from Germany. Joyce also revealed that the man she had referred to as Bawa was actually Kingsley Oho, the convicted trafficker from 2004. Nick Chalmers stated after the interview that the BBC traced Danny in Germany, and he confirmed that the photo was indeed of him as a child. That was the last new clue in the Adam case. No more information came from Joyce Osajid, and Kingsley Oho remained missing. Details about Samuel Anajayevi since his extradition to Germany were also vague, and it seemed he might have been deported to Nigeria after serving his 7-year prison sentence for trafficking. Sadly, there was no indication that Adam's identity had been confirmed. No one knew if the boy's name was truly Patrick Haber, and by this time, Joyce's brain illness had rendered her statements unreliable. Chapter 7. Who is responsible? The British police likely bear most of the responsibility for the case's deadlock. They faced criticism for focusing the initial stages of the investigation on South Africa, despite many experts suggesting that Adam might have come from West Africa. Furthermore, investigators had prematurely released Kingsley Oho, which allowed him to disappear in Nigeria. Many British people felt this reflected a lack of competence and a degree of naivety on the part of the police. However, the responsibility did not rest solely with the authorities. The media also played a significant role in obstructing the investigation. During the case, the press used details about Adam's death to incite fear about the black community in the UK. Terms like magic from Africa or human sacrifice rituals were frequently used in articles about Adam, without explaining that these practices were only carried out by a very small number of extremists. This caused the public to distance themselves from the case due to the frightening details that they believed would negatively impact modern society in the UK. 20 years after Adam's body was found in the River Thames, all that remains is a sad story and an unnamed grave near where the boy was discovered. From what was seen in the investigation, the police had come very close to answers, but a lack of evidence led to a dead end. At this point, unless the criminal steps into the light himself, the story of the unfortunate boy on the Thames River may remain shrouded in mystery.